Welcome again.
Thanks.
The man, Raymond Dokwesi, engineer, he prefers to be called now, even though he's got a whole lot of caps on his, chieftaincy caps on his head. So, I don't know how well you know him. Lead us into how you met him first.
Well, before 1992, he ran for the presidency of this country. Most people didn't know. He was a director of some sort in a sports authority. And so most of my townspeople, they're involved in importations. And so somehow one name continues coming up, that if you want something good to happen, if you have a problem at the port and you needed somebody to look at your papers honestly and dispassionately, that you go and see one Raymond Dokwesi. And somebody said, in this country, somebody won't take bribe. He won't tell you, see my secretary or see something. He said, no. So, it's just a story, and we lived with it until 1992 when, that was when Abiola was running for SDP, and Tofa eventually won for my party, NRC. I was chairman of NRC in Anambra State. And we had received about 6, 7 candidates from across the country. And the tendency then was that when you come, there will be about 40, 50 people waiting to receive you. You talk to them and then give them transport money. It's usual. So suddenly, a young man moved in with about an entourage of 10, 15 people. We introduced himself and allowed him to speak. I tell you in the name of God, after 15 minutes, people started shedding tears. I never seen anything. That is my friendship with him. When I saw the topic handkerchief, I was asking him, did you remember what you said in Anambra in 1992? Because he said, the Igbos have not been well treated. We've not been rehabilitated since the end of the Civil War. I was going, if you allow me to be president of this country, to be your handkerchief.
Did he say that?
Interesting.
That's what I'm telling you what happened in 1992. And you're asking me, did he say that? I was asking him, how did the topic handkerchief come up? Did you remember what you said in Anambra?
Interesting.
And he almost shed tears because he was just speaking emotionally. He saw the nature of the environment, and he was saying he knows a lot of people have come to make one promise or the other, that he was going to be our handkerchief that will wipe out whatever the problems are. That Igbos have made so much contribution to the development of this country that he would have thought no victor, no vanquished would have meant something a lot more serious than what he was saying. And when he finished talking, instead of giving the normal 50,000, he said he was giving us 100,000. And the whole congregation said they don't need a kobo from him, that they will vote for him in Port Harcourt. And he shed tears. We did not take one kobo from him. Everybody was standing up for almost 10 minutes until they all entered their vehicles and left. And we followed him and voted for him in Port Harcourt. Even when we had 2 candidates, Ume Zoke, a former Speaker of the Federal House, now late, and Dr. Edwin Onwudiwe, a former commissioner in Anambra State, they were all running for president, but they didn't get, probably the votes they had was the one they chose for themselves. That was all. So that was the first impression we had of this young man. Until, since then we started interacting, until when Peter Odili was running for presidency. He was the director general of the campaign. And he just, besides, I knew Peter Odili earlier than most of them. But they collected a few of us, myself, Raymond, late Dr. Emeka Enejere, Dr. Shedrack Akalohu, and a few others. And we formed an inner caucus that after each campaign we sit down and discuss, the probabilities of this country, how we're going to move this country forward. So it's somebody I have known, honestly speaking, I don't know how many people are disposed, intellectually speaking, as he is, in discussing any matter at all. Any issue. He's prepared to discuss with you. And that is probably what this country is lacking at this point in time.
Effective leadership through intellectual engagement. Now, let's look at, you've talked about hindsight. You've gone through the trajectory. He's turning 70 today. And, what a journey. What a journey. From the man that you knew then to the man that he is now, what can you say in his becoming?
I used to say that the best form of legacy is honesty. Honesty. And it's the most difficult thing to offer. He delivered his legacy. Before 70, he already laid down his legacy. There's no way you can talk about communication in this country without talking of Raymond Dokwesi. Even if an enemy is discussing that, he must have to give him 2, 3, 4 minutes somewhere. So he's laid down his legacy for this country that is becoming unimaginable. You know, the references made, first rail power, first this, first that.
Man
what else is legacy? So he's made his contribution to the development of this country. And if those who have been running the affairs of our states, our local government, and the federal government took a little sit back and ask yourself, when I leave this position, what is going to be my legacy? I suppose the greatest thing to remember about his 70th birthday is what he has left behind for the rest of us.
Now, to many people, he is a man of many firsts. Pioneered the first broadcast station in Nigeria that's independently owned, and was also the one who floated the first shipping line, you know, as an engineer, marine engineer at the time as well. So, looking at his life, an engineer turned a media mogul, and now a politician as well. What would you say, because there are so many people who are in the political stage who have not anything else you can say they have bequeathed to the society apart from politics all their life, no establishment anywhere that anybody can be engaged to work. But this is a man who, apart from being a politician, also has a business where many Nigerians have been engaged to work. So looking at all of this, what would be the message you think people should learn from his life?
You know, I normally have a definition for experience as knowledge and work is equal to experience. If you don't have knowledge, you don't work, there's no way you're going to acquire experience. But you see that in this country, most people say they have experience without knowledge. So how do you get experience of what? There has to be a basic. That is why all over the world, people still go to school and acquire certificates, whether you like it or not. You have to acquire some form of certificate. When you are looking for a job in any government establishment or private establishment, they have to ask you, what did you study? It is because of it that we don't have proper means of maintaining our vehicles, our motorcycles, because those who are involved in it do not know the science of what they are doing. It is easier to dismantle an engine. Ask the same person to fix it by saying, Oyibo made a mistake. Oyibo who built it made a mistake. Is it the way I have done it now is the better way? Because we do not have the knowledge and the work to be able to have an experience of what we are doing. So you see, the attributes of being an engineering scholar from Poland, and with all the experiences he had gathered, when you read that book, Experiences of Poverty, you get delighted about being poor if you have a good mother. You know, what women do, to be honest with you, I doubt if there will be many women in hell. I believe 90% of women will be in heaven for what they do. Even bringing us forth into this world is an acknowledgement that people take for granted. I don't take it for granted. The fact that your mother can go hungry to make sure you feed, I don't take it for granted. The fact that at the end of the war, when you see people being shot for armed robbery, the last person the military will push out of that person is the person's mother. The father will never come close there. So what women do in recognition of their children is unimaginable, and it's so well explained in this book, The Handkerchief. Depending on the color you want. It's a beautiful color that in Delta, when women are dancing, they are shoving the white handkerchief. You could have a red one if you want. You could have a black one. That's why all the criminals are all over there. This handkerchief they are waving and what they are doing. You know, so I believe he uses knowledge of engineering to be able to interface with the environment and make a progress that has not affected everybody else. When he was starting this, people thought it was some kind of madness. But he needed a level of courage, a level of understanding. Most importantly, vision. Because if you have vision, you don't have courage to achieve it, then it's a disaster. And I thought God blessed him with all of them put together.
Interesting. And, you know, he also was very instructive when we were looking at the formulation of the Nigerian Shipping Policy Decree Act of 1986, amongst many things. But let's look at the politician, the man, the politician. When you talk about High Chief Dokpesi as a politician, for many, you know, he's a veteran, he's astute. For some, he's controversial. For some, he's an activist. For some, he's a voice. And I remember that he did run for chairmanship, I think, in 2017. A quite intense, campaign trail followed him across Nigeria during that momentum. As a politician, at 70 and looking at the Nigeria today, what do you think his persona has brought to bear in the Nigeria of today?
Well, I think two mistakes we have made. First, he didn't win to become a presidential candidate of NRC. 25 won and was a disaster that happened. I mean, he lost his word to Abiola, so that's now a part of Nigerian political history. When he came out to run for the chairmanship of PDP, he only called me on telephone. I followed him to about 4 states. I introduced him in Enugu State, in Anambra, and in Ebonyi State. Even when a close friend of mine, which is Secondus, was running, I told him that he was incompetent. I told Port Harcourt Rivers governor that this candidate you are bringing out has not the mental capacity to run a national party. He's been a very lucky person from one office to the other. But to sit down and imagine how you can use a party for the betterment of the country, doesn't have the intellectual input to do that. And they insisted and made him. You can now see the effects, how they have messed him up or attempting to mess him up. Because we don't know where the party is going. If Raymond had become the national chairman of PDP, it would have been very intellectual. Maybe some people would have left because they wouldn't know where he's coming from. You need to be prepared to come in to sit down with him. Each time we sit down, it takes us 2 or 3 hours minimum. In fact, if I'm talking with him and he has an appointment, he forgets the appointment. Because we go enter into a different level that is so conceptualized and exciting that you say, thank God for this guy being your friend.
It's a lot of passion.
You know, he's so passionate. But even in his passion, he enforces his passion with some flexibility. You know, there are people who are passionate about something and who want to die for it. They don't believe in a second opinion. No, Raymond believes in a second opinion. Because if you have a better argument, he will concede to you. And he does concede to other people several times. Because when we are doing the presidential campaign for Odile, we leave the we come back, we go and have dinner at the government house, and we go back to Hotel Presidential. People will go to bed, and about 4 or 5 of us, we sit down till about 4 a.m. discussing what happened from one state to the other, the chances we have, the negatives we have, and they will normally ask me to present it the next day to the candidate because they now have the courage to tell him. He was much closer to me than any of them. I've known him since he was a student in Enugu campus. I mean, Peter Odile. So it is difficult to describe Raymond Dobesi in one word. It's just that he's a beautiful, brilliant Nigerian that we need even now.
Yeah, you're a member of the PDP, and it's should I say ironical that he hasn't won in some of those leadership positions he had contested for, even though he has made a lot of effort in going for those positions. Why I'm saying is ironical is because most of the achievements that the PDP has even made in this country in some of the issues that have been debated have been discussed in his home. I think I listened to Senator Obi during the book launch, The Handkerchief, where he said that even the struggle to scuttle the third-term agenda was also discussed, right there with him. And so he's always made that achievement, leading the PDP to success in every of his endeavor, but he has not been able to take that leadership position. Why have you guys not given him that opportunity?
Well, he has always had the courage to go the extra mile. The extra mile is not too long, but not many people have the courage to go that extra mile. Because the third term would have succeeded, but for AIT. When I heard some of them talking rubbish, they have all been given money. They shared the money. Most of them. Only very few didn't receive any money. Then Ken Namani called me personally. I said, Dan, what the hell is going on? Because he used to see me in the villa, come for one meeting or the other. What the hell is going on? And I said, I don't know. He said, you must know that there's something going on about third term. I said, I don't know. And honestly, then I didn't know. Then Mrs. Emodi, Joy Emodi, who was then a senator, also called me. Dan, what is going on? Something is happening. There's a good friend of mine who just died recently, a senator. He was the one sharing the money, with some elements sharing the money. And I had the courage to ask the then president, what the hell is going on about third term? And he told me, Dan, I didn't know. I said, so you want me to believe you that so much money is going in the National Assembly and you tell me you don't know? He said, I don't know. Maybe people have an interest in trying to preserve whatever it is they want to preserve. But later it was clear when Ken Namani then said, every person must stand up to speak live on television, then he started seeing the theory. My people told me not to do this. My people, but your people didn't tell you not to take the some $1 million, some $500,000, some $200,000, because they mortgaged our. There's something they give at the NNPC, the CFO or something, to a top businessman in this country, and they collected almost $600 to $700 million, and they were sharing it. But because of that singular act of Senator Ken Naman, that said you must stand up under the view of IIT and tell us what your constituency has told you, because he gave them about 1 week to all go home and consult with their constituencies, and they went and came back, and the system collapsed. So IIT had made so much contribution through Raymond that if he was a compromiser, a financial compromiser, he would say, look, I don't want to get involved. And that thing would have gone through and nothing will happen. No matter, a lot of things get through in this country and nothing happens. Nothing happens. So we have reason to be grateful to God for his birth, for his development, for his contribution to this country. And it is difficult to itemize it, but it's everywhere.
Absolutely. What lessons can be learned by the younger generation? Because again, there's a lot of mentorship going on. He's also revered as a mentor, one who looks at capacity of a young person and enables them, and also enhances and creates an enabling environment. What's the message that his life can say?
You know why the younger generation have a problem? If you were talking some 25, 30 years ago, you know, a lot of things were fairly well organized. You go to school, you come out, you might have a chance to get a job. Some companies will, you know, give you car advance, give you a house, and that. So the tendency of thinking otherwise was not there. Now you have millions, there are millions of young people who pass through school, looking at their parents, give them food, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 1 year, and suddenly the mother stops giving him money for his underwear. His father, maybe if he's lucky, both parents are alive. And this happens 2, 3 years. Mentorship disappears. Survival becomes, how do I survive? This is why all these so-called, you know, Nigeria thrives in nomenclatures, Boko Haram, IPOB, the bandits. We thrive in nomenclatures. We don't thrive in finding solutions to those nomenclatures. So this is why they have a recruitment strategy that is very easy for them, because the young men are there. There's no more mentorship. Even those who mentor are struggling to survive themselves. The situation is very bad in the country. Let us be honest about it. Only a few people who have access to governance, you know, still move around comfortably. But if you don't know that situation, I mean, when I go home and people hitherto don't ask me for help, are waiting, looking at me, I feel very sad that people hitherto we are giving money, paying school fees for other people. They can now take care of their family. And I come from one of the wealthiest towns in this country, with due humility. And if somebody at Nne will be telling you that things are difficult, then you will wonder how others will be feeling in other communities that don't have as much, you know, financial privileges.
So how does his life instruct the young person of today? What can they learn?
I think the church should be doing a lot more now, because you don't see anybody to learn from anymore. How many people have access now to probably, unless somebody who was watching the television, seeing, hearing what has been said about Raymond? Where will he come from? From Cross River, from Anambra, or from Sokoto to come and meet him? You know, the communication, there's no light. Most times they don't have television. They can't even view to understand what is going on. So the shortcomings for progress is so much that only the church, the mosques, if they are honest to themselves, will be preaching, telling people that there is hope. The audacity of hope, we must continue to emphasize it.
Talking about the church now, that reminds me of a story that was carried on our channel from Lagos, where a man who is less privileged, I should say,
physically disabled,
you know, a person with disability, had to donate 2 cartons of Bible in honor of Engineer Raymond Dokwesi for his birthday. And he says he's inspired by the fact that he watches the television every Sunday and says that the station does some broadcast, live broadcast for the Catholic Church in particular, and some churches were in support of the gospel. And he believes that Engineer Raymond should carry this on. What do you think, especially when you remember that he was almost becoming a seminarian at some point in his life?
I told him it would have been a disaster.
Why did you say that?
Yeah, because probably that was not his calling. If it was his calling, God would have made it easy for him. He's probably made more contribution now where he is than becoming a priest. Because priesthood is not a wonderful profession in Nigeria now. The Pope is crying on one side, every other church is crying. They have left the priesthood. They swore to defend the name of Christ, and those who swore to follow Muhammad. If they have done 5% of the promises they made on oath, this country will be a lot better place. Because those who are supposed to correct are themselves endangered. So who is correcting who?
But I'm moved by the fact that this person has not even met Chief, one-on-one.
You don't need. What I'm saying that he has a television for the past 5-10 years.
Every morning.
Every 5 o'clock.
Absolutely.
Most people wake up to join the Catholic Church in Mass, even Anglicans. I did it this morning in my hotel room. I had to get up regularly by 5 o'clock, follow and receive Holy Communion, even though I will not be there, and it gives you so much joy. This is a spiritual contribution a man is making.
Absolutely.
I don't know whether even they pay any reasonable amount of money for the time. If they do, it must be very little. That is a wonderful spiritual contribution, apart from what he's doing in other spheres of human endeavor. I think it's, and I don't know whether this government has even bothered to wish him a happy birthday. Because this is not the style, this is not their trial. They want to suffocate him. He just finished, finally the courts, acquitted him. That is the kind of thing, the decent ones are the ones we want to kill, we want to suffocate because of our belief that we can't control them. They can't bend, they can't yield, This is the Nigerian problem. Who yields, who doesn't yield? How much is going to lead us, or where is going to lead us, only God knows. But thank God that he's been exceptional in this 70 years, very short period of time.
And indeed, I quite agree with you, because a lot of people, even though do not go to church regularly, also encounter spiritually that Mass every morning for 1 hour, and that takes on their day. But let's look at this accusation on the NSAS, movement, and in some elements, placing accusing spotlights on IPOB. And, some leaders have come out to say that it's alarming to make that statement, because then it indicts, the whole Ndibu race, and it should be taken back. How do you review that conversation?
Well, 2 days ago or 3 days ago, somebody sent me, forwarded a message to me. That was the first time I saw the National Security Advisor. And I must concede, I'm not apologetic about knowledge. I'm very humble with very brilliant people, to be honest. I saw the National Security Advisor. I fell in love with him. Brilliant, well-spoken, good delivery. But unfortunately, he was relaxed with honesty. He has a relaxed, tendency with the truth. I wouldn't say he was economic with the truth. But when you see him speaking, you needed to have some microscopic evaluation to understand where he was coming from. Because that answered the question Ada just asked. Because everything that is bad, to make meaning in Nigeria, Igbo man must be involved in it. Then it becomes an issue. Because everything he said was that all the problems, if they find a way to also say that IPOB is involved with bandits and with Boko Haram, they will do it. If they want to have a way to attach them to E.S.N, they will do it. So what is the business of IPOB and NSAS, young men across this country? In fact, the demonstration wasn't serious in the Southeast to start with. It wasn't serious in the Southeast. I didn't even know. When you go to Lagos, you hear the demonstration going on. It wasn't anything serious. In fact, the destruction that happened in Lagos, the Igbos suffered most. Even the military admitted that. When they said that it was the Igbo that attacked the Oba's palace, the military said it's not true. They did not, because most of the things that were destroyed in all demonstrations, Igbos were the victims of those destructions. So it is convenient, unfortunately convenient, for people to attach any serious thing, because if IPOB is not put in, then it's a problem. Because why? I was trying to tell somebody last night, you see, what does it take to have a dialogue? Because about 4 or 5 days ago, Babagana Kinkibe was saying that everything in this country is negotiable. What you cannot negotiate is life, because only God gives life. You can't negotiate that. Every relationship is negotiable. If you are in a relationship with somebody and he feels uncomfortable, you have other ways of discussing with him. You can sit down with him and talk. I have said on this platform, why can't this government sit down with Nnamdi Kanu, sit down with whomsoever is the head of bandits or Boko Haram? We haven't had serious discussions. And you see somebody like the Attorney General of the Federation. I wish the National Security Advisor was the Attorney General of this country. It is this same Attorney General that wrote a letter to the National Assembly. In a civilized country, he should not be in government. That is again where I blame President Buhari. Buhari nominated Magu as chairman of EFCC, and he wrote a letter to the National Assembly that Magu was corrupt. Even if he was, you couldn't do that. It can't happen in America. That the president nominates somebody, you wrote the first letter, he renominates the person, you wrote another letter, and you're still in government. There must be a purpose he's serving to them. And he's now showing it. About 2 weeks ago, he advocated for emergency declaration in the Southeast, in Anambra in particular. And I said, thank God we now have a basis of comparative analysis. Could we look at what has happened in Anambra and the rest of the Southeast and compare it with the daily occurrence in North Central, Northwest, and Northeast? There's no relatedness. Recently, it was the train line. It's a daily news now. All print media, television stations, there's nothing that is happening that killing, abduction, children, wives, everybody. And yet, he has not demanded for a state of emergency. Even when the governor of his home state, a Katsina governor, is now asking for the bandits to be declared a terrorist organization. The government hasn't done that. The herdsmen that have killed more people than any other organization put together, they haven't declared them a terrorist organization. The Mieti Allah people that have insulted the whole Southern governors because they took a stand on grazing, the government hasn't said anything about that. Instead, they go about defending them. So sometimes you wonder, where are we really heading to? Is it one country? Because there's love of country. I was born in the north, and I regard myself, until recently, as a northerner. During the war, we were called Hausa Igbos. And I was proud about it. I had no apologies to offer to anybody. Because we had a free attitude, you know, the attitude of back home. Why do you bother yourself? God will bring what you eat. But we will now say that you have to work hard to find what you eat. God doesn't drop anything for you. You have to work hard. This is what the North has not realized. Because after 50-something years as president of Nigeria, and they still have the poorest, the most uneducated, they have to ask themselves some basic questions. Don't shift your problems to other people. You don't.
All right, Chief. Election is just around the corner in Anambra State. Yes. Even though you have said a state of emergency, it shouldn't be declared, it's not necessary. But that election appears to be threatened by activities of, you know, IPOB, the sit-at-home order that is being issued here and there, and then the fear of even people campaigning because of, you know, insecurity in the southeast. What do you make of the Anambra election, and what are the chances that that election will hold and candidates or winners will emerge?
Well, I want to believe as a human being. I can't play God, that the elections will hold. As of today, I believe it will hold. What will happen tomorrow, only God knows. But I believe it will hold. My people, I come from Anambra, and we have value for life. I said in my last appearance that most of the violence you see in the Southeast are imported violence. Igbos are not used to killing, shedding blood. We are not used. If there are elements who are doing that, they are being supported from outside. And they have a purpose of doing that. This is why now you hear some of them calling for state of emergency, which they have not asked for. Where indeed there is civil war going on in 3 states. The governor of Niger State has virtually said he's lost all his communities. And they haven't declared any state of emergency there. The governor of Katsina State is asking for a state of emergency on security. They haven't declared state of emergency there. So why Anambra? Because of the sporadic action, you know, occasional stops and gyrations that happen for about 1 week or 2 weeks.
Are you not worried that this
No, what I'm
saying
that there is no consistency about the violence in the southeast. Imagine when the governor of Imo State said those who attacked the prison, that they were not, it was not IPOB, but his political opponents. Adamu, who was then IG of police, said no, it was IPOB.
No, but again, IPOB is issuing a sit-at-home order, which everybody knows.
You know what?
Wouldn't that affect election? And don't you think it has an implication on the election at the end of the day?
You're asking of what I think.
Because we also hear IPOB saying they don't have anything to do with INEC and all of that.
Well, you see, when you become symptomatic about a problem, you don't look at the root cause of the problem. Look at the drama of bringing Nnamdi Kanu to court. A small boy who was not born during the Civil War. The drama of his coming to court. A.G.F, senators, nobody could enter the court. Even court workers could not enter the court.
The media couldn't enter.
Media could not enter the court. What was the drama all about? You hype him, you make him more than what he is. And I'm asking, what has Nnamdi Kanu really done that others have not done? All he has asked for justice for his people. You may condemn the methodology of his wanting to achieve that justice, because there's no leadership. Apart from the Enugu governor, who makes a serious attempt, quietly, to coordinate and organize our people. There are no governors who are working. If our governors were working, Nnamdi Kanu will not see a vacuum to fill. That is the problem. We leave the main problem and start talking about, declaring sit at home. Why shouldn't there be sit at home? If people don't want to sit at home, does anybody go to harass them? Even since they made the announcement, people should be going to work. Out of fear, people still sit at home. They have made it known that it's only the day they will take him to court that they will ask people to sit at home. And I tell you, people are gladly sitting at home.
They are not gladly sitting at home. I've sampled a whole lot of opinion. People think that the economy of the Southeast is being battered.
How do we do that? We can afford to lose that, to make a point. That's the only way we can make a point now. Because this country has not recognized the contributions of the Igbos in this country. They have not. If not, tell me how the government will be talking about, there's a word they used, to dominate. That he has issued instruction to the military to dominate Anambra State during the election. Do you know what dominate means? Overwhelm, intimidate. That is even more serious than what IPOB is talking about. Because now most people will not be prepared to come out, seeing roads and armored tanks and everything moving around. Because that's the meaning of dominate. We know security is important, but to use the word dominate, which the National Security Advisor re-emphasized. And to start with, we are talking about discrimination. Do you know? The National Security Council just met and took that decision. In that National Security Council, not one human being from the whole of former Eastern region. Not one human being. That is part of what Nnamdi Kanu is talking about. Injustice, lack of inclusion. Not one human being. Because we are not in the...
But Chief Dan,
just a second. We are not in the service, any of the service distance. We're not security advisor. We are not chief of staff. We are nothing. They couldn't even invite... They have two lackeys in the Southeast. They could have called the governor of Imo State to come and tell them, theoretically, what is it that is happening as a basis of their decision taking. So in the National Security Council, where the decision was taken to dominate Anambra election, there was no Igbo man there. Not one.
Okay, Chief Dan, I think quite genuinely a lot of people would also be listening to you and taking stock, as well as those who are living in Anambra right now. And, you know, I do have a modicum of courage that some of the things that you have said are quite glaring. However, you talked about methodology of, you know, expression of separatist, you know, demands, the killings, the violence, the accusation that has fallen on the line of IPOB, and also the engineering of that faith through Nnamdi Kanu's leadership of such a group. The methodology, do you not also think that, you know, you cannot rob Peter to pay Paul? Can we look at it differently?
You know, there are theses as a scientist. I mean, I accept empirical data if they are properly presented. You knew I was, what do you call it? I was kidnapped on the 26th of last month.
Yes.
And held for about 3-4 hours before they released me and took my vehicle and every other thing. And I had courage to ask. I was saying the blood of Jesus. I saw young men carrying brand new AK-47 rifles, intimidating myself and my driver. And I got annoyed. I said, God, I'm above 70. I've lived the better part of my life. And I promise you I'll continue saying the truth until I die. And I asked them, what the hell do you think you're doing? He said, if I talk again, you will kill me. I said, you can't kill me. And the young man stopped his vehicle and said, you can't kill me because I'm covered with the blood of Jesus. You can't kill me. I said, 50 years ago, I was almost a major in Biafran Army. And he almost wept. Oga, did you serve in Biafran Army? I said, yes. If we knew this, we wouldn't have taken up this job. The problem is coming from your own environment. If we knew that you helped to save our people, and I almost wept. And they said, nothing will happen to you and your driver. And they dropped us off. About 30 minutes after that, they told us that most of the violence were imported, that they are being paid to go and destroy their own properties from outside, so that they create a problem as Igbos are doing something wrong. Our people have value for life. Igbos have value for life, more than any other tribe in this country. And I make good to say it anywhere. Because anybody who goes around this country investing does not hate this country. There was a time I was in one of your programs doing around from 9 to 10 o'clock. Then my friend Ibrahim Dankwambo was governor of Gombe State. I had a 1-hour program. And I said, can any other tribe tell me which tribe has made any contribution to the development of this country, to the patriotism of this country more than Igbos have done? There's no part of this country you go and you don't see an Igbo man making an investment. Come to the whole of Eastern region, you don't see an Hausa man with one property. I said it on TV, and not one person. The governor called me, the Northern governor summoned an emergency meeting in Kano and discussed my program. I said, you see an Hausa man, he's selling currency at Owerri Road. You don't know when he comes in and when he goes. If you see a Yoruba man, he's about the tailoring service. They won't even buy an empty land. But an Igbo man comes to your place, buys land, develops it, makes sure they build a school. Igbo State Union built a college in Kano in the 50s that everybody was going to school. Is that hatred? Do we hate this country? Why do they hate us so much?
Just coming in here. I know that this is quite very emotional, and it's a conversation that, when played up, brings in a lot of history into foreplay. But the elections in Anambra State, let's look at that in view. What are the chances of the candidates, and of course the effectiveness of zoning during the election? What do you see?
You see, the zoning is very paramount. You know, it is part of the problem. When Jonathan was finishing, the North was clamoring, it is our turn. It's not a constitutional provision, but it makes for inclusion, for representation. If this government was serious, look at the problem in Southern Kaduna. We have, every state has 3 senatorial zones. There's no way somebody from Southern Kaduna will be governor in Kaduna State, unless there's rotation of power. There's no way an Idoma person will ever be governor in Benue State, unless there's rotation. And these are part of the problems instigating controversies and violence all over the place. If you give somebody hope that he knows the South goes, the Central will go, the North will go, because it was Peter Obi, and God bless him, who started zoning in Anambra State at his, about 6 months to his to the end of his second term. I was among the few people he invited for breakfast. And he said, Chief Dan, this is what I'm thinking about. I said, it's brilliant. Start involving people. Because if not for that process, there is no way somebody from Anambra North, they don't have as much money as the South or the Central for them to be able to push themselves. That was why this governor, who is there now, became governor. Because probably most of the money he used to be governor was brought from the South and the Central. So we now know that if it moves, if this is your turn, next time is somebody else's turn. Next time is somebody else's. I come from, we're a one-town local government. We have a chairman, a council chairman, we have a state assembly. It moves from around the 4 villages. So once it is town of Otolo, where I come from, every party goes there to get a candidate for either chairmanship or whatever. When it is time for this, you go to that village to get, and it goes orderly. Because everybody qualified to do something, one thing or the other. Now,
Chief, I had one of the candidates of one of the parties contesting for this election, in fact, one of the contenders, on this show last week, who said that the issue of zoning appears to be alien to Anambra State, that even when P2B you're talking about was contesting, that people from everywhere, all the senatorial districts contested, from the South, from the North, from the Central, that they all contested, and even when Obiano was contesting as well. So how come it's becoming an issue now?
Well,
what would you say about that?
Let me use my phraseology again. He has a relaxed relationship with the truth. Because when he was on that program, he failed to tell the country, most people who were listening to him, that those who defied the zoning also failed in the elections. He failed. He was convenient for him. Because I told him that it's a constitutional problem. Anybody can run. But if a society decides for the convenience of progress to say that Nkoli will go after you, Ada will go after Ada, it is me. There's nothing wrong in agreement. There's absolutely nothing. But he failed to indicate that the names he mentioned, the present APGA candidate, Soludo, was among those who defied that, and he failed. I thought he came third or fourth. Let us see what will happen on the 6th. 90% of Anambrarians believe in zoning because it helps for inclusion of every part of the state. It makes for inclusion of every part of the state. So he would have been eager. Like, there was something again I heard him say on television, that when Uche Kunife, Senator Uche Kunife, that they all agreed that they were supporting for governorship. And Senator Kunife, we all came on flight yesterday. They said it's false. Because somebody was given the senatorial seat of PDP in Anambra Central, and he ran away, said he didn't want it. Then Shidoka, the former minister, was asked to come up. He said now he has just finished running for governor, he doesn't want to. And then this candidate you were talking about, Obiora Okonkwo, was offered, and he said he wasn't going to participate in any elective office. Ask Uche Kunife, she quoted it, and she ran away. I mean, he ran away. By that time, Uche Kunife already had the ticket of APC. It took both P2B and myself to convince her to come up to run. And she ran and won the whole 7 local governments in the central. So how can you say that there was an agreement? There was no agreement. So it's not enough. Zoning is not a constitutional matter, but it's a matter of theoretical convenience for inclusion.
All right, a good point to leave this discussion. We must thank you very much for making our time to share your thoughts with us, starting with the birthday of the founder of Dark Communications, you know, and then the elections in Anambra State.
I still will have one more appearance. Then I'll tell you who will win the election.
Thanks for checking out Symphony on YouTube. Please be sure to subscribe and like our videos for updates.